if you use chiropractic for that purpose only, you're using about 2% of chiropractic, and you're wasting all the rest. To understand the real value of chiropractic, you have to understand a little bit more about the way the body works. First of all, let me point out that chiropractic deals not with just the health potential of the body. Chiropractic deals with every physical activity. Every level of human performance is involved in chiropractic, simply because every level of human performance is controlled by body chemistry. It is your body chemistry that determines how much energy you have in the course of a day, how well you sleep at night, your moods, your attitudes, how well you get along with other people. Let's just talk a little bit about the role of chemistry in running your life. Do you know, for example, that you're sitting here right now and your heart is beating away at a certain rate for you? If you were to get up and run for the bus, you couldn't make it. There's not a person in this room athletic enough to run for a bus and catch it unless they first change their body chemistry. There are little glands in the body called adrenal glands that make adrenaline. And for you to generate the speed and the energy to run, you have to have adrenaline pumped into your bloodstream by those two little glands. And if you don't get enough adrenaline, then you lack the power and the speed and the strength and the ability. Why do you think athletes change their chemistry? And very often they kill themselves by changing their chemistry in a desperate effort to get more performance out of the body, because the body performance is controlled by chemicals. Do you remember Len Bias, the basketball player? Maybe the greatest college basketball player this country has seen, certainly in a generation. And he went out, he could run faster and jump higher than any other athlete. He could sustain energy better than any other athlete. He could spend more minutes on the court without becoming exhausted. And one day he went out and played one of his greatest games ever. A magnificent performance, and then he went home and keeled over and dropped dead. And we found that this excessive performance was brought about by the ingestion of chemicals. Chemicals in the body change your performance levels, and what he did was in 1 hour burn up 30 years of his life. So changing body chemistry controls your performance, but it has many, many broad effects other than the ones some of the athletes are seeking. The Russian women athletes recently were stripped of their gold medals from the Goodwill Games, because it was discovered that some of these women athletes had achieved male strength by taking male hormones. So they won the shot put and the discus and the javelin, but they paid a price. They grew mustaches, got deep voices, and their breasts shriveled up as their body became half male from taking these anabolic steroids. When you change body chemistry, you change performance. Do you know you can't even go to sleep at night without making a chemical? Some people make borderline quantities of that chemical. They say, well, I can sleep most of the time if I don't drink coffee. Coffee keeps me awake. Yes, of course it does. Coffee is a chemical. And if you're only making borderline amounts of the sleep chemical and you add the coffee, then you can't sleep. And some people, when they can't make the right chemicals to go to sleep, go to a drugstore and they buy a chemical. And that makes them sleep. Then they can't wake up in the morning. Because to get up in the morning, you have to make another chemical. Everything you do requires that you change your chemistry. You breathe in polluted air. The only way you can survive is by making the right chemicals. There are hundreds of different carcinogens, cancer-producing drugs in the food you eat, the air you breathe, the water you drink. How do you survive? You survive by making the right chemicals. And if you don't make enough of the right chemicals, now you're going to be a victim of some disease which you could have resisted if your body chemistry had been in the right balance. To extract nutrients from your food, your body has to make enzymes, which are chemicals. If you make the right enzymes, then the food you eat becomes good nutrition for the body. They say, well, you are what you eat. That's not true. You are what your body is able to extract from what you eat. And if your body chemistry is out of balance and you can't utilize the food, eating more doesn't help. I happen to believe the American people probably have more nutrients in their urine than the rest of the world has in its diet. They keep popping more nutrients into their system, more vitamins, more minerals, and that's okay if your body can use them. But if your body chemistry is such that you can't use them, they're just going to waste. Do Do you know you can't even laugh without making a chemical? Your sense of humor is controlled by chemistry. Years ago, there was a dentist by the name of Morton who tried to make dentistry painless. And he made it painless by having people breathe in a chemical called nitrous oxide. That's laughing gas. And people would breathe in this chemical, and their whole sense of humor would change, and they'd relax. So here comes the dentist with a bloody great drill in one hand and a pair of pliers in the other, and the patient would think, oh, that's funny. Huh? And they breathe in a little more of this chemical, and they become unconscious. And if they breathe in a lot more, they become dead. See, changing your body chemistry changes your sense of humor, your degree of relaxation, your energy, changes everything. Your moods. Why do you think the police won't let you drive a car when you've been drinking alcohol? Because alcohol, as a chemical, in your bloodstream, alters your physical coordination. You can't walk a straight line, you can't talk straight, you can't think straight. But it also affects your reaction time. Your judgment is impaired. You can't see straight, you can't think straight. You're a menace to yourself and everybody else. And look what happens to people's moods and personalities with alcohol. And I'm not picking on alcohol because there's lots of other chemicals. There's some people who just can't face a social life. They're little wallflowers till they get a couple of belts inside them, and then yaha, life of the party. Hey, walk into a bar sometime. Here's somebody has a few drinks, he wants to beat up the whole bar, beat up everybody in sight. And then somebody else has a few drinks and it becomes all gabby. And somebody else has a few drinks and it becomes all lovey-dovey. Can't do anything about it, but he's all lovey-dovey. So changing your body chemistry really changes who you are. It changes your ability to resist disease. If you breathe in ragweed pollen in the summertime, your body responds by making a chemical called histamine. Now, if you make the right amount of histamine, then you don't even know there's pollen in the air and it doesn't bother you. The person next to you making too much histamine, not able to control the production, the histamine causes a runny nose and watery eyes and coughing and spluttering and sneezing. And they say, boy, the ragweed pollen is making me sick. No, it isn't. If ragweed pollen could make you sick, we'd all be sick. We all breathe in the same pollen. What makes you sick is the fact that your body is not responding properly chemically. You produce too much of this histamine, and it's the histamine that makes you sneeze and splutter and cough. And lots of people then go to a drugstore and they buy antihistamine. And it works. It dries up the membranes, dries up some of the symptoms, because it causes other problems and other symptoms. Drowsiness, can't do a decent day's work, can't maintain energy. And then there are things like constipation or diarrhea, intestinal hemorrhage, intestinal bleeding, prostatic cancer in men. And interestingly enough, when you take antihistamine, guess what your body does? Makes more histamine. So the problem goes on and on. Changing your body chemistry is necessary to life, but when you change it artificially, it creates all kinds of problems. In order for you to do anything, you need to change your chemistry. To think clearly. Just imagine your kids. You send your kids to school and they're supposed to get an education. How much do you think they learn if they sit in class until break time, then they go out on break and smoke pot and go back in class? You think that would affect their learning ability? Would affect their IQ, their memory, their concentration? When body chemistry is out of balance, nothing works right. Hey, let's talk for a minute about the menstrual cycle. Now, we know there are physiological changes, there are physical changes. There's water retention and weight gain, sometimes complexion problems, straggly hair, lackluster eyes, don't feel like working. These are just the physical things. Are there emotional changes at premenstrual time? Does PMS sometimes be so severe that it leads people to suicide? What is it turns a perfectly rational human being into this once-a-month witch syndrome? What is it? It's a change in body chemistry. A tiny, tiny change. And boy, when body chemistry changes, it affects moods, attitudes, capability. Have you seen Howard Cosell recently? Howard Cosell can't hold a microphone. He shakes so badly. He can't thread a needle because his brain is lacking a little chemical called dopamine. And boy, if you don't have dopamine in your brain, then you can't coordinate. You can't do any fine coordination. And they stick a label on you. They say you have Parkinson's disease. Well, it is a disease, but it really is a chemical imbalance in the body, the lack of a little chemical. Alzheimer's disease is another one. Loss of memory because your brain is denied a certain chemical. For you to perform properly every day, your chemistry has to be in balance. And when chemistry is out of balance, you'll never again be all that you could be.